I've had requests about doing a roast along, and that's exactly what I'm going to do now. This is a production batch of Pantano, a natural process Yellow Bourbon, and I'm roasting it for espresso. This video will show you from the beginning to the end of the batch, and I'll do my best to talk through the decisions that I'm making throughout the roast profile. Righty-ho, here it goes. So, the last batch has finished, so I'm just saving that off on Cropster. I'm just going to stop the mixer, and I always like to smooth out the better copy because that helps with a better drawdown. Everything is now set up. I have my next batch ready to go in the loader, and I'm watching my between batch timer now, and at 45 seconds I'm going to hit lift green, wait for the button to go green, and watch the raw copy get into the machine. I'm just going to stand back a little bit because it's quite loud. I've got 45 batches to do today because Sam is on annual leave, so I'm going to be assuming his delivery role on Wednesday and Thursday, so I've got a lot to do in one day. Do the check the stones, Loring wiggle, back over to the machine, stop the lift, check that the green is in the hopper and we're all looking good. Roasted's good, nothing's in the drum, and our next profile is loaded. So this is Pantano, it is a Yellow Bourbon. I'm just going to press start roast, check the parameters, 240 charge, burner gas, 60% start, roast with an auto charge. So I'm now going to wait for the return temp on Cropster to tick up to 240 degrees Celsius. There are also these parameters here as well. My yellow button is ready to go, showing that the auto charge is loaded, and of course, going back to the profile, Pantano is loaded. It is a Yellow Bourbon, natural process coffee from Brazil. I am roasting an espresso profile. So, green is now dropping in. Little tap, make sure that nothing's in the hopper. We're all good. Now it's 10 minutes of me standing in front of this screen watching a bunch of lines. So let's explain what I've got on the screen. The key things that I'll be looking at are total duration. I'm using this duration here to make mark points within the actual Loring system. I'm going to be watching my gas input. I'm watching my bean temperature curve and my rate of rise curve here. I've got my return temperature and my inlet temperature, which gives me understanding about what's going on inside of the roast system. So the first thing I'm going to be doing is loading up the next gas change. So at 1 minute, I'm doing 78%. And then going to mark this in Cropster. Doing the mark allows me to look back through the roast that I've done and understand when I took action, and therefore what consequence that has had on the cup profile should I select the coffee for production quality control. Now, I'm watching these temperatures here. We are tracking just slightly under the bean temperature curve of the profile. At this point, I am not going to take action because the return temperatures are running pretty good. So I'm imagining that this will tick up and follow in line shortly. What I am going to do is tee up my next gas change. So it's 93% at 1 minute 57. So 55, 56, gas in. I'm then going to mark this as well, gas in. What we can now see is that the bean temperature curve is becoming more in line with the profile, and importantly, the return temp is also in line, but I do need to keep a note of those. So, also, the 240-second cool down has finished. So I need to eject this batch from the cooling tray so that I can obviously get out the batch that is roasting in there. So I press the mixer button, the mixer goes, open the gate, and that's going to fall into the auger that will get ready to go into the hopper of the destoner The action here is roasted product gets lifted, any heavy objects remain within the system. Get an empty bin, stick that on my scale because I'm going to weigh the roasted product. Now, this is going to be a little loud, do apologise. I'm going to lift the coffee, I'll stand back. Whilst that's lifting, I'm just going to check my profile. We're all looking good at the minute. Return temps are really good. Whilst all the loud stuff's going, I'm going to load up my next batch. These are 12 kilo batches on a 15 kilo Loring, and that's how I like to roast. 80% load, gives a lot of tumble space inside of the machine. I feel like I get good balance between output and quality. Now, coffee has been dropped into the auger. I'm going to stop the mixer. I'm going to close the circuit to make sure that all the coffee has lifted. Turn that off. Come back to my screen. At 160 degrees, I'm going to mark a color change there. So that's 4 minutes and 21 seconds color change. Let's get the roasted coffee out of the hopper. Hydrate. So that's 10.401 kilos from a 12 kilo load. Now, what we can see here is that the bean temperature curve is just tracking a tiny little bit low. So I'm just going to knock 1% gas in for a short period of time. That was 5 minutes that I did that. So let's run that for 15 seconds. Just to push those temps back up a bit. Drop that back down now. And hopefully these lines will marry. Okay, so now I need to get that weight into this batch. 10.401. That then will give me in Cropster the percentage weight loss, which is really important. I'm gonna put that in the stack for our Jules to pack when she gets into work. For interest, it's 7:05. I like to roast early, but roasting early actually, here's the thing, roasting early means that your inlet temperatures can sometimes be a little lower. It's quite cool today, so I'm just going to drop that down to 90% gas, put a mark in. My next gas input is 85% at 190. The nice thing about Loring is you can tee up your gas, and all you now need to do is press the return button to execute. So at 190, I'm going to press execute, and that means that the gas will drop down. I'm going to be making 5% incremental drops now as we travel into first crack, and first crack is going to be at 7 minutes and 44. So we're getting close to that now. 194.8. Next mark point, so that's 80. 75% coming up. Tracking a touch on the high side, but that's okay. 75 at 197.7. So watching that on my bean temp, so I'm going to do that now. Last adjustment before I mark first crack, so 199.7 degrees Celsius, doing 70%, which I've just done now. We're going to cruise into first crack. I'm going to tee up my next gas change, 65% at 205.4. Watching as first crack comes up. You can't hear first crack on the Loring because it's so noisy. I'm going to mark that now. Just check the color. This is the bean temperature curve, by the way. Pardon me, it's the bean probe. So that's where these readings are coming from. So 205, I'm going to make a mark there. Okay, so now I'm wanting this to be a nice declining slope. So I now need to be very careful with what I do in adjustment terms. I want that to track nicely. It's important to be very precise. Well, it's important to be precise throughout the whole curve, to be fair, but a wrong move now will have a pretty profound impact on flavour. So my next adjustment is 211.2 degrees Celsius, 60% gas. That is there. Next, I'm going to be dropping 10% now, because I really want to try and put the brakes on. My end point is 216.8 degrees Celsius at 9 minutes 41, 1 minute 57 development time, or thereabouts. Temperature is really important, so I like to drop at temperature. So there we go, 50%. Everything's still looking nice and good. Another 10% at 215.6 there. So now I'm watching temperature, bean temperature. I've got my cooler fan running. I've got my finger on the open door override. I like to do the manual thing. Now I'm going to eject the batch. So out comes the batch, all good. I can make roast comments here, I don't bother. Turn that off, save the profile, watch the beans, and we get ready to rinse and repeat. As I said, 45 batches today. Might see if I can do 50, but that's a very, very long day. However, when I'm trying to do one roast per week or one roast day per week, I can't undercook the output, so maybe I'll do 50. Anyway, there we go. That was a batch of Pantano as per profile. It was an espresso roast. How did he find that? I think that kind of went okay. There's a few things that I raised throughout that point of view roast. I haven't yet reviewed the footage, and I'm sure I could do better next time. And maybe next time what I'll do is I'll do a point of view of a live roast of something that I've never roasted before, so I can discuss the types of actions that I'm taking throughout a batch that I'm completely blind with. How about that? Anyway, I hope this was useful. Cheers.